Here at the 14th annual NFL Honors, one of the closest MVP conversations finally came to a close with Josh Allen coming out the reigning MVP. The New England Patriots are currently faced with some questions as quarterback Mac Jones has been benched in both of the last two games. With the team's record being 1-4, there might be a quarterback adjustment being made shortly. However, Mac seems to be their guy for this week. Now, there are a few staples when you come down to New Orleans for the food scene, but nothing is more iconic than the beignets at Café Du Monde. But the events on the field weren't the only ones taking place today at the Boys and Girls Club. As you can see behind me, there's over a dozen helmets that players sat and made with different kids around the community. New Orleans is known for many things, one of them being their party culture and insanely good food. So I decided I need to try it out while I'm here. Well, the Bruins had themselves some fun here tonight at TD Garden as they won 9-4 over none other than the Montreal Canadiens. There was a total of 16 different players who recorded a point, and some even 3. Danton Heinen recorded his first ever career hat trick in tonight's game. With the second day of training camp officially in the books, the Atlanta Falcons offense has been the talk of the town. But let's not forget about that new defensive line. Now, having returned from their trip, they come back with shared experiences and stories to tell going into the regular season. That's beautiful. Now, we have a bunch of different bowls going on here. So what's the difference between each one? And can you kind of walk me through your setup here?
Absolutely.
Now, while the outcome wasn't exactly what they were looking for last time they faced off against Mahomes and company, the fans stood with them through it all. 41 goals, 7 games, and yes, 3 fights in the span of just 9 seconds in one of the most watched games in recent history are just a few of the highlights from the first ever Four Nations face-off. The tournament brought a new level of excitement back into hockey. The Red Sox have put themselves back on the map by signing free agent Alex Bregman on Wednesday to a 3-year, $120 million deal. Bregman was one of the last big names left in free agency and is expected to play second base for Boston. The 30-year-old is coming over from the Astros, where he won 2 World Series and was a 2-time All-Star. Bring out the Zambonis, tape up those sticks, and get ready to drop the puck because the first signs of hockey season are officially here. New year, new me is how the saying goes, and the Patriots lost no time putting that to use this new year. An hour after the final game of the season, Robert Kraft issued a statement that rookie head coach Gerard Mayo had been let go. Now, being a women's hockey player, can you tell me about some of the role models in your life, some other hockey players that you've looked up to?
Yeah, so when I was really young, I would go to the Minnesota Gophers games.
That's great. Now, I am no yogi myself or yoga expert, so can you teach me some of your moves and what you teach the classes?
Absolutely. Let's get started in a crescent lunge. So we're going to put our right foot forward. We'll start with our right side. Right foot forward, you want to look to have your right knee over that right ankle. So beautiful. Arms are pulled in opposite directions. Gazes to the front, overlooking your fingers. Let's go. Beautiful. Great
Yoga
work.
expert now, aren't I? Statistics. What are they, and why does the entire sports industry revolve around them? Look, we all know that if a player doesn't achieve a certain amount of touchdowns or goals or points in a season, then the media collectively decides that that player doesn't deserve our attention anymore and moves on to the next big star. But in today's sports society, it seems like we, to some extent, overuse statistics. Yes, I know it sounds weird, but hear me out. In my mind, there are 2 types of tests for a player: the stats test and the eye test, and sometimes those don't align. The eye test is a more subjective way of looking at it and is based on what you see when you watch a game. Take, for example, Celtics guard Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday was a huge influence on the Celtics and are a big reason Boston won their 18th championship. However, when you look at the stats from the past year, they weren't anything spectacular. But if you were to ask Celtics fans about the 34-year-old, they would say how much of an impact he was on this team and how his leadership on the court was a true game changer. There's many examples of the eye test in sports. Take Alex Ovechkin in the 2021-2022 season. He scored 50 goals, but 9 were empty netters. And Jason Tatum, he was the 7th highest scorer in the NBA this past season, but how many of those points were made in garbage time? And lastly, I'd be remiss not to mention the fact that Jarren Duran is the first player in MLB history to record 10 triples, 20 home runs, 30 stolen bases, and 40 doubles, but Aaron Judge seems to be the only player in talks of winning MVP. Now, I'm not saying the stats don't matter, but there is more to a player that often gets overlooked because of the statistics-driven world we live in. Look, at the end of the day, while stats are great and very telling of an athlete, the only statistic that truly matters is the number of championships you've won. For Boston Globe Today Sports, I'm Danielle DuBois.
Over a dozen of the nominees and this year's winner, Eric Armstead, got together to interact with kids of New Orleans Boys and Girls Club. Louisiana Boys and Girls Club CEO Angel Nelson said it was a once-in-a-lifetime event.
But I think most importantly today was the NFL players were able to really show the kids how they can give back to the community.
But the events on the field weren't the only ones taking place today at the Boys and Girls Club. As you can see behind me, there's over a dozen helmets that players sat and made with different kids around the community.
I realized the main purpose of the whole thing is to unite.
NFL players like Adam Thielen sat down and let their creativity flow while painting helmets for My Cause, My Helmet.
I'm not a very creative person, so I was just like, all right, I'm gonna grab some bright colors and throw some stuff on there. And then I saw one of the girls in there who was doing like the splatter paint. So I'm like, oh, perfect, bright colors and a bunch of splatters.
Other players like Dietrich Wise went with a more symbolic approach.
So the helmet was just kind of like the sky, the space going down to the sky, going on to the land. Because, I feel like everything comes from above down to below.
The helmets, while fun to look at, are more than just paint. Every player chooses a cause to support.
We help youth reach their full potential. We kept our statement broad so we can help out as many organizations as possible.
While these helmets won't be worn on the field, it mirrors the My Cause, My Cleats campaign, where players represent different charity organizations and express causes that are important to them. From New Orleans, I'm Danielle DuBois, WEBN Boston.